Hey there, and welcome to the instructions and tips video. My name is Nilza from apurposefulbudget.com, also known as A Purposeful Budget over on Instagram and on YouTube. Thank you so much for choosing to invest in one of my spreadsheet budget templates. This instructions and tips video comes with all of the spreadsheet templates. So depending on which one you've purchased, you most likely will not need to watch the entire video. So I've added timestamps down below so you can jump to whichever sections that you need to watch. I will be going through the layout of each spreadsheet budget first, and at the end of this video, I will get into how you can customize, such as how to add or delete rows and columns without disrupting the layout and making sure to carry over the formulas, as well as adding in a third paycheck budget for the months where you get a third biweekly paycheck. So if you want to learn how to customize your sheets, that will be towards the end of this video. Before I get into the layout, I do want to go over the first few sections of the please read sheet that is included in each of the spreadsheet budget template, depending on which one you purchase. The let's go over each sheet over here is going to look different. However, the information above will be the same. So first things first, thank you again so much for choosing to invest in one of my spreadsheet budget templates. If you have any questions at all, any concerns about your spreadsheet budget templates, please make sure to reach out to me. This is my email address here. And anytime you need to access this video, the link to it will be right here. I can't hover over it right now because I'm still filming this video, but once I finish filming this video, I'm going to go ahead and add it here so that you'll be able to just click on it and it'll take you to a unlisted YouTube video, which is what this is. The only way you can access this video is if you have the link to it, and only those who purchase one of my spreadsheet budget templates will have access to it. And so getting access to your template, if you have not already done so, this is in view only mode. So that means that you cannot edit in this spreadsheet. You will need to make a copy. So you'll go over here to File, make a copy so that you can go ahead and start editing. So I'm just going to hit OK here. You can pick whichever folder. Maybe you have a family budget folder or a family folder that you can put it in, or a spreadsheet budget folder, whichever folder you want to put it in. You can go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to click OK, and it's going to open up another template. And then here you can go ahead and rename it however you like. I do suggest that you make a master copy. So I would put here, maybe leave it as copy of APB monthly budget system. And then from here, you can go ahead and copy it again and then name it a different file name. You could put 2022 family budget or 2022 budget, whichever template that you chose. You can put 2022 debt tracker or something like that. Name it however you wish. But I do highly suggest that you make a master copy because you do have this for life. You can go ahead and reuse it year after year. Make sure to make a master copy of it first. I highly suggest that. And a little bit of important information about the sheets. As you guys noticed down here, there is a lock symbol. That just means the sheets are protected. So certain parts of the cell is protected, and that is to prevent any kind of accidental deletion of formulas in layout. You can override this if you choose to change anything within the spreadsheet. This is an image of what will pop up. It'll say heads up. You're trying to edit part of this sheet that shouldn't be changed accidentally. Edit anyway, and then you can go ahead and click OK if you want to make the changes. If you didn't mean to make any changes, you can go ahead and click cancel. There are a lot of the cells that you can edit, of course, because you need to be putting in your budget and all of that. So that part of the template will be editable. So we'll get into that a little bit later and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the layout. I'm going to go ahead and start here. This one is the APB monthly budget system. In the let's go over each sheet for the monthly budget system, the way that I organize this is so that each of the sheets is right here. So budget overview, a debt tracker, net worth tracker, a savings tracker, the monthly budget, and the income and expense tracker. And then I also broke it down further to each of these different sections in the sheet. So for example, budget overview, it's going to have a budget category list, budget overview, and a budget category breakdown. And then here on the right side, where there's a bunch of words over here, is just a bit of the tip and instructions on how to fill it out. So let's go ahead and start with the budget overview. Here on the left side, side is an area for you to write down all of your different budget categories in the list view. It is very important that you write down your categories here or type in your categories here because it does correspond to the monthly, weekly, and bi-weekly paycheck budget sheets. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of our different budget categories here so I can show you a couple of examples. So I'm just going to list a couple of those different ones here for now so I can use these as an example later on in the video. So here in the budget overview section, there is an area for you to list out your monthly and regular bills. Put these in due date order, the amounts, and then any notes you want to make regarding that bill. And then here at the bottom, it'll total it out for you. And then there's an area here where you can write down your variable day-to-day spending and the typical amounts that you spend every month in each of those categories. And if you're not sure what your variable categories are, I highly recommend that you start tracking your expenses at least for 1 month to get a good idea of the different types of spending that you do, or go back and take a look at your bank statements and start highlighting all the like items. So for my family, these are our typical variable day-to-day spending, and I figured that out by tracking all of our expenses. So hopefully that helps you out. And then here in this box where it says monthly income, go ahead and put down the average amount of your monthly income, because what this is going to do is give you a leftover / savings potential amount. Your monthly income minus your monthly regular and variable expenses, and hopefully you have something left over because that'll be your savings potential or possibly extra funds for you to put down towards paying off debt if you are on a debt payoff journey, or if you want to invest that money and save it. So whatever you want to do with that leftover money, hopefully you put it somewhere towards wherever it's going to make the most impact towards your financial goals. And if I try to delete this, like I said earlier, this is what I mean by all the cells are protected, or some of the cells are protected, and that is to prevent any accidental deletions. I don't want you to accidentally delete any of the formulas, but if you want to go ahead and customize certain things, you can overwrite it. So hopefully you don't delete the formulas, because one of the best things about this spreadsheet template is that it calculates everything for you, which is awesome. And then there is a seasonal and annual section here for any of those annual dues and memberships that you owe. I'd like to call this sheet my budget cheat sheet because I can always refer back to it. If I don't have my calendar handy with all of my bills and stuff, I can just go ahead and refer back to it on here because it'll have the due dates in order for me, as well as like the seasonal bills that I have as well. So I can take a look at it here. And then on this side is your budget category breakdown. Anytime you see these arrows, it corresponds to whatever you had listed here in your budget category list view. So whatever you put down here, it will automatically pop up in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put food in there, household. Let's go ahead and put kids. Let's just go ahead and put healthcare in there. So this is going to be your main categories up here. And then any expenses that fall under there, you're going to go ahead and put down. So for food, what is included in our food budget is both takeout and groceries. I know some people prefer to separate out takeout versus groceries. And then household is anything that really has to do with the house, organizing stuff, organizing storage, bins, and all of that stuff. I love all that stuff. Laundry things, anything pretty much that has to do with the house. And then with kids, it's anything school related, clothes, books, toys, and then healthcare. So any of the co-pays, dental, like hospital bills and stuff like that, I do put under healthcare. And then let's go ahead and add in another one. So utility, I include cell phone in there, internet, and it's called SCE, it's Southern California Edison. And then seasonal, I'm gonna go ahead and put Christmas on here, and travel. Those are our two most used seasonal expenses. And by seasonal, I mean it's like annually or it doesn't happen too often. So I'm gonna put Christmas and travel. So Christmas, of course, gifts, decor, cards, and then travel, like road trips, when I go visit my family, like vacations and stuff. So hopefully you guys got a good idea of how to use this. It's a nice place to have all of your budget categories organized once you figure out what your budget categories are. And that is pretty much it for the budget overview. Let's go ahead and move on to the monthly budget layout as well as the monthly expense tracker. I'm going to go ahead and skip the debt tracker, net worth tracker, and savings tracker until after I have gone through all of the monthly, weekly, bi-weekly spreadsheet budgets. Let's go ahead and start with the monthly budget. This is what the layout looks like, and it has an area for your income, fixed regular expenses, variable day-to-day expenses, savings, and extra debt payments. There is an area for you to write down your notes, goals, and any reminders that you have, like your financial to-do list, a plans versus actual box. I love this section here. I'll go over that in a little bit. And then you're going to have a monthly spending recap here. And then towards the very end over here is your ending balances. So going back over here in the variable day-to-day expenses, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of examples. So I'm just going to put the food, household, and kids. Once you put a category on here, it'll automatically put down zeros on here, which I'll show you in a little bit once we'll get into the expense tracker. I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of budget amounts on here. Let me scroll over a little bit. So you want to put the budget amount. Our typical budget lately has been $300 for food, or I should probably put 600 because it's 300 bi-weekly. And since this is a monthly layout, let me just go ahead and put it down as monthly. Household 100, 60. And then for fun and events, let's go ahead and put 100 for now. As you guys can see here in the planned area, what I like to pay attention to as I'm planning out for the month is the difference / leftover amount. As you guys can see here, it's at a negative $860. I budgeted $860 here. So let's go ahead and put an actual income on here. So let's put $200 here for our starting balance, and then maybe $3,000 for a paycheck income. So if I go over to this side, I put that in the actual. Let me put that here in the budget amount, and then 3,000 here, and it auto populates over on this side. So income is $3,200, variable expenses $860, which we still have a leftover amount of $2,340 left over to still budget for. But since we didn't put anything in our regular expenses, savings, or extra debt payments, there is still so much left over that still needs to be planned out for. This is one of my favorite things over here because as I'm planning out for the month, I can take a look here. If you happen to be in a negative over here, you can take a look at where you can cut. But if you are under budget, you can go ahead and throw that extra leftover money into one of your financial goals. So that is pretty much it for the plans versus actual box over here. And again, this is still protected. So in case you accidentally delete it, this will pop up and you can just go ahead and hit cancel. And then as for the January spending recap, this is something that you will need to do manually. So what I recommend that you guys do with this is that if you know your typical categories that you use, your spending categories, you can go ahead and just hit copy. So let's go ahead and hit copy. And then each of the months, you are going to go ahead and save it. So you can just right click and paste. And that way you have it in each of your months already. Let me go ahead and do it again for March. So let me go ahead and just right click and paste. That way at the start of your month, you already have that in there. But let's go ahead and get back to the spending recap. So you can enter the budget amount manually if you like. So 600. What I like to do is click on this cell, hit equals, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this cell right here where it says budget amount under food, and then hit enter. And it automatically does it for you. And sometimes it'll auto populate, but you want to make sure, or autofill, but you want to make sure that it is accurate. Sometimes it's not, depending on the layout of it. So sometimes I just like to hit X and I won't do it. So yeah, so you can go ahead and just hit equals with all of them and hit each cell. Or again, you can do it manually if you'd like as well. So that's what I like to do. And then in the actual column, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go in this monthly layout. I'm going to go ahead and hit equal and do the same thing. With the actual, you want to make sure that you actually do the equal sign and not manually, because it's going to auto-populate depending on what is in the expense tracker. Now we'll show you that in a little bit. So equal, hit this one, equal, and then fun and events. Let's go ahead and take a look at the expense tracker so you can take a look at how the pie chart looks. in the expense tracker, two sections. There's a checking account section up here and a cash section down here. And I color coded it so you guys know that light blue it's with checking account and purple is with cash. And what you want to put up here is your starting balance. I believe we did 200. So let's go ahead and do that. And then with the income, let's just say with the paycheck income, we received $3,000. I think that's what I put in here. Yeah, I put $3,000. And so the incoming income is going to be on the top part here. And then the expenses right here. So in this column right here where it says balance, it'll automatically calculate. So in the expenses, let's go ahead and just put food. Let's just say Sam's Club. We spent, typically spend around like $120. It's important that you don't put a negative sign on here, like a don't do like -120 or else the calculations will be off. Just put the amount that you actually spent and it'll go ahead and calculate it or subtract it from the income over here. So let's go ahead and do household as well. Let's just say from Sam's Club, say $30 on there. And then scrolling down here, there is going to be a total at the bottom, your total expenses and ending checking account balance. So this right here, the $150 is a total spending amount. And this right here should be what your checking account balance is. And then in the cash section here, let's go ahead and put $50 if we're starting out with $50. And then if we receive like any gifts or maybe a return that we got in cash, let's just put like $50 here and then $50 here. Let's go ahead and add that over here in the income as well. So gift and then like a refund here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in both. So 50 here and then 50 right here. Let's go ahead and go back to this. So that's your incoming cash flow. And then in the expenses part, we usually use our cash at the farmer's market. So that's the example I'm going to use. And that's usually fun and events. We typically spend about $40. And then scrolling down here, you'll get a total of the amount that you spent with cash, which is 40, and then our leftover cash amount right here, which is $110. So going back to our monthly budget over here, all of the amounts should have auto-populated here, which is my absolute favorite because if you're a debit card user like I am, this is freaking amazing that it can calculate for you. And it's just in the variable day-to-day expenses that I did this on because I find that that's the part that usually throws us off of our budget. So hopefully this is something that will help you out. And then since we went ahead and put the actual amounts here as well, the pie chart also automatically popped up as well. And it is labeled here. So fun and events, household, and food. And it's nice to have the spending overview so you can kind of see at a glance which spending categories you are spending the most in, and if that is aligning with your values and your goals. So that's why I like to include that in our budget. Hopefully it is something that is going to help you out as well. Anyway, so that is pretty much it for the monthly budget layout. Hopefully this demonstration was helpful. So let's go ahead and take a look at the biweekly paycheck budget monthly layout. It is broken down by paycheck. This is what I use since my husband gets paid biweekly. Here there's an area to put down the paycheck date, the budget period. So here on paycheck date, let's say you get paid on November 12th. The budget period, if you're budgeting biweekly, is 2 weeks, so 14 days. So it's going to be from November 12th to November 25th. And then the next paycheck budget is going to be again on the 26th. And then again, the budget period will be from the 26th to December 9th. So okay, so let's go ahead and just put a couple of numbers on here. I'm going to put a starting balance of 300 and let's go ahead and put a paycheck amount. Let's put 2,300 on there. I'm just going to put both planned and actual on there so we can kind of see how that auto populates here on this side. Then let's put a couple bills on here. The paycheck's on the 12th. Let's see what we have expenses going on. We have Netflix, SCE, which is Edison. I'm just going to put a couple on there. it's due on the 19th. This is on the 12th. It's out of order, but that's okay. $18 for Netflix. SCA is typically about $80. And then variable day-to-day expenses. Let me just go ahead and put a couple on there. So for budget, I'm going to do 300. For household, I'm going to go ahead and put 50. Savings, let's go ahead and add savings on there. Let's put travel, since we are saving for travel, put $100 there. And then looking here in the plans section, there is still $2,052 left over to budget for. What this does is takes all the budgeted amounts for paycheck number 1 over here, and then it adds it or auto populates it here in this box. What I like to pay attention to is the difference / leftover column, because if we are under budget, we can go ahead and allocate that to one of our financial goals, or if we are over budget, we can go ahead and take a look at what expenses we need to cut. This is a great planning tool as you guys are budgeting for the month or per paycheck. I'm going to go ahead and keep that in the paycheck number 1 demonstration. Let's go ahead and add a couple of amounts over in the second paycheck budget. Let's go ahead and just put 2,000 maybe here, 2,000 here. And then let's go ahead and put a couple of expenses on here. We do have car insurance due towards the end of the month. That's usually on the 30th. It's about $120. And then let's just go ahead and put 120. I'm just going to put the exact amount. And then rent will be due as well. And that's due on the 1st. Let's go ahead and put $13.95. I'm going to put cell phone on here. So I have 2 categories under utility on there. That actually was due in the last paycheck budget. I'm just going to go ahead and put that here. Cell phone, that's due on the 23rd. And that's $235. And then back down to variable expenses. Let's go ahead and put food and household as well. That's not all of our variable budgets. I'm just putting a couple on there so you can see. And then let's put paying back our emergency fund on here because we actually are working on that as well. I'm just going to put actual amounts on here. What I'm not putting actual amounts in is the variable day-to-day expenses, because we are going to take a look at the expense tracker because it is going to auto-populate for us. Before I get into the expense tracker, I'm going to go ahead and add some of those budget categories that I have over here. Food, household. I have some utilities on there. Let's just put rent and insurance on there. Here in the January spending recap under budget, you can go ahead and manually type in your amount, but if you don't want to do the math, you can go ahead and hit equals, and you are going to click on the corresponding cell. So this is going to be for paycheck budget number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Then I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to go ahead and add this one over here. And when you hit enter, it's going to go ahead and calculate for you. And it's going to suggest an autofill. I usually just hit X because sometimes it doesn't really correspond to each one. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I like to play on the safe side and I just hit X. Same thing for the household budget. I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to go over to household and click that, plus again, and then do this cell right here. So I'm going to hit enter. I already see a typo over here. We don't do 500 biweekly for our household, so I'm going to put 50 on there, and once I change that, it's going to also change here. That is why I like to do the equals and then hit the corresponding cells, so that as I change anything here, it'll also change here versus doing it manually. Utilities, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. Utilities for us, we count electricity, of course. I'm going to go ahead and hit this cell right here, plus, and then cell phone as well, and then go ahead and hit enter. And so that's our budget. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for rent, hit enter, and then insurance, and then hit enter. We also put life insurance under our insurance category as well, but I don't have that on here, but usually that's what we'll do. In the actual column here, I'm going to go ahead and hit equals for food. I'm going to go ahead and click on the corresponding cell over here, hit plus, same thing on paycheck budget number 2. And then hit enter. It's going to say 0 because there's no amount there yet. Do the same thing for household and hit enter. Same thing for utilities. This one's going to populate an actual amount since there are actual numbers on here. And then same thing for rent. Just going to do equals, enter, equals, hit this cell right here. And then as you guys may notice, there is a pie chart now, because since there's actual numbers on here, what this pie chart represents is your actual spending, not your budgeted amount. So this is a great way to see an overview of where you are mostly spending for the month. Let's go ahead and just take a look at the expense trackers. Let's go ahead and plug in all of the income over here. Really quick about this income and spending tracker before I get into the demonstration. It's broken down into two sections: a checking account section, which is in light blue, and a cash section, which is in purple. I went ahead and color coded it so that if you're looking through here, you know that if you are in the blue section, it's checking account. If you're in the purple section, it's cash. You're gonna write down your paycheck number here. Just do paycheck number 1. Your tracking period is gonna be from November 12th, which is when you got paid, to November 25th. And then here, paycheck number 2, tracking period for this one is going to be from November 26th to, I believe, December 9. Yeah. So let's go ahead and plug in all of the income. So let's go ahead and put paycheck on here. So let's go ahead and put $2,300 on there. And then here, let's do the same thing. I think this one I did $2,000. And you can go ahead and list any other income here as well. Let's just say Christmas fund. You went ahead and dipped into that and put $200 there. And let's just do the same here. Christmas fund, $200. Let me go ahead and put that in here as well. So $200. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that down. Christmas fund, $200, and then $200. And then down here with expenses, there's also that drop down over here, just like with the variable day-to-day spending in the monthly budget layout or the bi-weekly budget layout. What's going to happen here is when you put an expense, so let's just put Sam's Club, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit food. We typically spend $120 whenever we do a big grocery haul. And then we buy most of our household items on there, like the toiletries and stuff. So let's just put $30 there. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same on here. Let's just say Sam's Club. Maybe I got some, let's do Christmas. So let's put $100 there. Target, let's put kids stuff. And then I'm going to put like $30 on there. Let's go down to cash. Oh, what I should have put on here actually was starting balance. So I put 300 on there, I believe. So let's put 300 here as well. And these will automatically calculate. And something that I should have mentioned earlier is that you don't want to put a negative sign on here. So you don't want to put negative 120. So just put the amount that you actually spent without the minus sign, and it'll calculate for you. And then here, when you scroll to the very bottom, it's going to give you a total of the amount that you spent and the leftover amount in your checking account. So that's what this running balance is. And then going down over here to starting cash balance, let's just say we have $50 that we're starting out with. There's an area for incoming cash flow. You can put maybe gifts that you receive, or a refund if you're returning something. So let's say with gifts, maybe you received $50 as a Christmas gift, birthday gift. Maybe you return something for $40 here. Let's go ahead and add that over here actually. So gifts and then a refund, $50, and then you did a refund for $40. Let's just go ahead and add that all in there while I'm doing this. And then for expenses, usually for cash for us, we use it at the farmer's market, and that's usually under our fun and events. And we typically use about $40. And then let's say on the second paycheck budget, we didn't get any incoming cash, but we did use our cash. Maybe let's say at Target, we got something. Let's use kids, and then maybe $30 there for kids. And it'll total up on here at the very bottom. And so what these amounts will do, it'll automatically populate into your variable spending categories. But remember, I didn't put kids on there. So it was a kids expense in the second paycheck budget right here, so you guys can see. And there was also a fun and events category, fun and events, and Christmas as well. So make sure you add your categories on here. That way it auto populates for you. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put down the categories that I didn't put in the monthly spending recap. So I'm going to put kids, fun and events, and then Christmas on here. And then so I'm going to leave the budget blank. And then for actual amount, what you're going to do again is you are going to hit equals and then go over to here to kids, hit this cell right here, click plus, and then this cell over here and press enter. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for fun and events, equals, and then this one right here. And then same thing for Christmas. And before I forget, one tip that I have for you to save a little bit on time is to go ahead and select your budget categories here. You're going to right click and hit copy and go to each of your months and go ahead and just click paste. That way you already have it there if these are the typical spending categories that you use. That way each month you already have it on here and you don't have to go ahead and copy and paste or manually input it on there. So that way each month will always have it on here for you and it's in the order that each of the month is in. So that is one of the tips that I have to maybe save you guys a little bit on time and so you don't have to do it later on. So that is pretty much it for this demonstration for the January biweekly paycheck budget month, as well as the income and spending tracker. Hopefully this was helpful. So let's take a look at the weekly paycheck budget layout. This looks similar to the biweekly paycheck budget, except it has 2 extra paycheck budgets if you're paid weekly. So I'm not going to be doing a demonstration on this. If you want to take a look at a similar demonstration, make sure you take a look at the biweekly paycheck budget. And again, the timestamp will be down below. But let's go ahead and just take a look at the layout. Just like the biweekly paycheck budget, there's an area to put the paycheck date, the budget period, your income box, the fixed regular expenses, variable day-to-day expenses, savings, and extra debt payments. So same thing here with the variable day-to-day expenses. There's a drop down where you can choose your budget categories. And then here on the right side is a plan section where you can plan out or budget plan for paycheck 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then an actual section here. So all the actual amounts under income, fixed expenses, variable expenses, savings, and extra debt. And then make sure to pay attention to your difference/leftover amount column. Just so if you're under budget, you want to make sure that you allocate those extra funds to your financial goals. If you're over budget, you want to take a look at where you can cut your expenses. And then there is a month total here. So what your starting balance was, incoming income, expenses, and then difference/leftover amount. And then there's an ending balances box over here for your checking account and cash. And then down over here is your monthly spending recap. So once your budget categories are filled out, as well as your actual amounts, a pie chart will pop up over here that corresponds to the actual spending amount. So the pie chart will only pop up once you put an amount over here. Then more on this side is an area to write down notes, goals, and reminders for each of the paycheck budgets. So that is pretty much it for this layout. And then again, if you'd like to see a demonstration, make sure you watch the biweekly paycheck budget part of the video because it is pretty similar. So let's go ahead and take a look at the income and spending tracker for the weekly layout. So this has 4 paycheck income and spending trackers. So it corresponds to each of the paycheck budgets. So paycheck number 1 would go here, paycheck number 2 in this column, paycheck number 3 over here, and then paycheck number 4. Make sure you guys are careful and that you are writing down the expenses for, let's say, paycheck number 4 on here because it'll automatically populate in the corresponding paycheck budget. Let's say here for variable expenses, if you don't put it in the correct spot, your numbers are going to be off. So make sure that if you are on your paycheck budget number 4, that you are in the correct income and expense tracker. This would be paycheck number 4 over here. So make sure that you guys are using the correct columns. And then just like the other income and spending trackers, this is broken down by checking account, which is in blue, and then cash, which is in purple. Again, if you'd like to see a demonstration, I do a demonstration on the income and expenses in the biweekly paycheck budget part of the video, so make sure you check that out. That is pretty much it for the monthly layout, the biweekly budget layout, the weekly layout, as well as the income and spending trackers. Let's go ahead and move on to the debt tracker, net worth tracker, savings tracker, and then the yearly budget overviews. I'm going to go ahead and click on the individual sheet. So if that's something that you purchased by itself, I can show you what it looks like. If you purchased a debt tracker only, this is what it's going to look in the instructions and tips. It's just going to have information about the debt tracker over here in this section versus all of the sheets because you only have the debt tracker on here. Everything else above is the same. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the debt tracker looks like. There's an area for your debt overview over here, your balances as of, and then whatever date that you are listing everything out. And depending on what method that you choose, if you choose the debt snowball method, you're going to list your debt balances according to smallest to largest. If you choose the avalanche method, you're going to put them in order of highest interest debt first to smallest interest debt. However way you choose to pay it off, make sure you write it in priority order. And then here on this side is your monthly debt balance and payment tracker. This is broken down by month. You're going to write down your debt accounts here. And then in each of the months, you are going to manually go in, pick a date and time each month that you're going to go in and check your balances in each one, and then what your payment was. So this includes your minimum payment and any extra debt payment that you put. Let's put a couple of the ones that we had. So we had Capital One, One Main, we had our car loan, we had student loans. I think we had a total of like 12, but I'm just going to put a couple on here. Student loan, let's say in January, my balance for Capital One was $1,500. One Main that one was high. That one was like $9,000. Our car loan maybe it was at $10,000. And then our student loan was at $15,000. And then it automatically calculates down here. And then payment, let's say for the month of January, we'll put down $100 here. Our minimum due on here was $200 biweekly, so I'm going to put $400 on here. Our car loan was $485, and then student loan, I was paying, I believe, $150. As you put down the payments on here, it'll calculate it down here at the bottom. What this debt tracker does not do is calculate the interest rates. What it is pretty much is just checking the balance manually, and then you're going to input that in here. That is what I did. This is something that I created in the back of my passion planner and I really loved it. So hopefully this is something nice and simple that you guys can use. I like the idea of you going into each of your accounts and checking on your balance. I know it's a lot of hard work, especially if you have a lot, but it's totally worth it. I also added some motivational quotes up here to hopefully inspire you or keep you motivated, because if I'm being completely honest, you're not always going to be 100% motivated. Sometimes it's kind of defeating to see that your numbers or your balances isn't going down as quickly as you'd like. But if you just stick with it, work hard, put all your extra money into paying off debt if that is your goal, it'll all be worth it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the net worth tracker. This is broken down by month. So this is tracking your net worth monthly. The top part over here has your assets. Assets are anything that can be turned into cash. So you would put the value over here. So a couple of examples would be maybe the cash amounts that you have inside your savings accounts, checking accounts, also your retirement savings, college savings, your car, jewelry, anything of value that you can sell or turn into cash. That's what you're going to put here. And it's going to give you a total assets amount in this row over here. And then down here with your liabilities. Liabilities are anything that you owe. So your credit card debt, car loan, personal loan, student loan debt. Even if you owe family something, even though they're not a creditor, if you owe family money, you can put that on there because it is still something that you owe. And then your total liabilities will be in this row. And then here at the very bottom, it'll calculate your net worth, because what it basically is assets minus liabilities equals your net worth. Depending on how much you're in debt, don't be scared to see if it's in the negative. This is why you want to track your net worth, is so that you can see what your overall financial situation is and so that you can change it. So that is pretty much it for the net worth tracker. And then now moving on to the savings tracker. This is one of my favorite trackers. I use this every single month. What this has is an area to put down all of your savings categories here. It can be sinking funds, or it can also be, or what we use it for also is is for contributing to my son's 529 college account, and then as well as my husband's Roth IRA. So that's what we're using it for as well, in addition to sinking funds. And then you can write down your savings goal here in this row. Your contribution will be a save by amount if you're saving specifically. Let's say for Christmas, you want to make sure it's saved by November or December, whenever you decide to do your Christmas shopping, and then what your starting balance is. And the amount here in the current balance depends on what your starting balance is, and then the amounts that you put here, whether you're saving an amount or spending, it's going to go ahead and automatically calculate here for you. I'm going to use our emergency fund as a quick demonstration so you guys can see. So our goal at the beginning of the year was $7,000, and we did meet that goal, and I wanted that to be done by December of 2021. Our starting balance at the beginning of the year was 5, and then our current balance is 5, and then in January we put, let's say, 500, and then in February maybe let's put 200, and then maybe 100 here, and then as I put in the amount, it'll automatically calculate here for me. And then let's say in April, since after we got our tax refund or something, or stimulus, we were able to put in more. So then we finished fully funding our emergency fund by April. Since we do have it in a high yield savings account, I did put an area here where you can put down the interest that you earn. We were earning a couple of dollars each month since we have like a bigger balance in our savings account. I'm kind of a little nerdy with the numbers, so that's why I have it on here. You totally don't have to use it if you don't want to. I just like to have the exact amount that it has in my Capital One 360 savings account on my savings tracker. So you totally don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it's there if you want. And then I believe it was in August, we did spend $2,300 for a dental expense for my son. And when you put an expense, so if you put a spent amount on here, don't put that minus sign. So don't do $2,300 that you spent, just put the actual amount that you spent without the minus, because the calculations will be off. So just put the actual amount that you spent without the minus, because it'll calculate it for you. In August, we spent $2,300, and as you guys can see up here, it automatically calculates for us our current balance. I like using this because I like to see, and even sometimes plan out months in advance, what our typical savings could look like, because I like taking a look at the balances up here, depending on what our goals are. Hopefully this is going to be helpful for you guys if there are certain savings goals that you have. And yeah, so that is pretty much it for this savings tracker. Let's go ahead and take a look at the yearly budget overview. So there's 3 versions of this. There's a monthly breakdown, bi-weekly breakdown, and then a weekly breakdown. Let's take a look at the monthly breakdown first, like what it's called. It is broken down monthly, so January to December. And what this has is an area for your starting balance, your income, savings, fixed and regular bills, variable spending, seasonal expenses, extra debt payments, and then your net total, which is I like to call your savings potential. This top part right here, these right here, the amounts will be auto-populated depending on what you put in these sections down here at the bottom. And it's the same thing. So it's like your income, your bills, your variable expenses, savings, extra debt payments, and then seasonal expenses. Let me just do a quick demonstration of how this works. So let's say for January, our starting balance was $200, and then we received an income. And then we received a paycheck income of $5,000. Maybe we got a gift, refunds, maybe you guys are returning some things, and then maybe you're using your savings funds, maybe a Christmas fund, and you maybe put $200 in your checking account. The total amount here, so that $5,350, will automatically auto-populate up here. Again, like I said in this video, if you accidentally delete it, this will pop up. So just go ahead and hit cancel in case you accidentally hit delete or type in a number that you didn't want to type in. And then here at the bottom, let me just go ahead and put a couple of different expenses on here so you can see. So rent, our electricity, so 1 to 12. So I'm just going to put that. The total amount that's down here will automatically pop up here. And then with variable expenses, you're going to manually put it in here. So let's say food, household, kids, and then typically for the month right now we're spending about $600, household maybe about $100, and then kids $60. So that is the actual amounts that I'm putting. And then savings as well. Let's go ahead and put travel, Christmas, the Roth IRA, and then college fund. So let's say this month we put 100, Christmas 100, Roth 500, college maybe 100. And what I like to use the yearly budget overview for is mainly for planning purposes. I like to set up our monthly budget this way, and ours is even more tedious because we get paid bi-weekly. So I break it down by paycheck budget, because what I like to see is what our savings potential could be. We have a lot of savings goals that we want to hit. I just want to make sure we make the plans ahead of time to make sure it happens, so that we can keep ourselves in check with all the spending to make sure that it's aligning with our goals. And then as I close out our budget, I will go ahead and put in our total amounts on here. That is how I use the yearly budget overview for planning purposes. And then at the end of the year, once you update it, you'll have a good overview of your spending. So you'll have it broken down by months. You will always have this, and then make sure you keep it in like a financial folder so you can go back later on and take a look at what you spent in year 2021, 2022, 2023. For the weekly layout, it's the same thing, just broken down into 4 paycheck budgets. Hopefully this was helpful. What I did forget to mention is that each of these yearly budget overviews has a section to put your why over here. So that way, as you're updating or planning out your budget for the year, you can take a look at your why, and then maybe it'll help keep you motivated to keep going on your financial journey. So that is why I put it on here. So let's take a look at how you can customize certain parts of your sheets. I'm going to go through some of the ones that you might be needing to customize. So let's go over the debt overview. Depending on how much debt you have, you might not need all of these, or you might need more. This one's pretty easy. You can just click delete row and it'll just delete for you. Or if you need to add more, you can go ahead and right click and insert below or above. These ones are easy because there's no formulas here in the middle. I'm going to show you another one where it might look a little bit more complicated because you'd have to drag the formula over. So let's take a look at your savings tracker. This is what I find that some people might need more or less in. So if you want to add another category, another savings category, this has enough room for 10, but let's say you're saving for a lot more specific things and you want to add an extra savings category, go ahead and click from the middle, right click and insert to the left or to the right, whichever you choose. I'm just going to insert to the right. And as you guys can see over here, the formulas didn't go through. So what you're going to need to do in order for the formulas to move over is you're going to have to click on this box right here. And you see this little tiny box here at the corner. You're going to wait until the cursor is a plus sign like this. You're going to click it and you're going to drag it over here, and the formula will copy over. And then here on this side as well, you're going to do the same thing. I know it's kind of tedious, but if you want to add that extra row and keep the formulas, that is the way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to every single one of them. And then if you don't need these many savings categories, you can go ahead and right click the top over here, highlight the column, and then just go ahead and delete. So if you don't have that many, you can go ahead and just delete all of these. And then later on, if you change your mind again, just go ahead and insert and then drag the formulas again if you change your mind. So that is how you can customize your tracker. So let's go ahead and take a look at another sheet that you might need to customize by adding a row. It would probably be your income and spending tracker. If you need more lines than the expense lines over here, you're going to go ahead and just click on this row. You're going to right click and insert above or below. And then like earlier with the savings tracker, you're going to highlight this cell, and then you're going to look for this tiny box over here, hover over it, wait for the plus sign, click, and then you're going to drag down to carry the formula over. However, if this is too many rows for you and you want to delete, you will not be able to do that, and I'm going to show you why. Let's say I delete these rows right here. So it's going to pop up like a reference or an error over here because that's just how the formulas are in order for it to calculate the running balance. So you don't want to do that. If you accidentally do that, that box will pop up, but since I clicked, I'm going to edit for a few minutes, it didn't pop up for me. So I'm just going to hit back over here to put it back the way it was. So that is how you can add additional rows and then drag down the formula so that the calculations won't be off. So now let's take a look at the biweekly paycheck budget. So if you bought the biweekly paycheck budget system or just the biweekly budget and expense tracker, there is a sheet at the very end where it says 3 biweekly paycheck budget copy. Because if you are getting paid bi-weekly, more than likely 2 months in the year, you'll most likely get a third paycheck. And for us, that usually happens twice a year. So twice a year, we'll have a 3 paycheck budget month, and this is what it will look like. In order for you to customize this, you are going to right click here and you're going to hit duplicate. And then depending on what month it is, I'm just going to put March on here. And then for the expense tracker, you also want to do the same thing because it's going to be 3 paychecks on here already. So I'm going to go ahead and right click here, hit duplicate, and then it's going to duplicate that sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and rename it to March expense. I'm going to drag that over here so it's side by side. Here's the tricky part. Because how the formulas work is that in the variable expense column here, if you guys look up here at the top, you're going to change 2 things on here. You're going to be over here in your first paycheck budget. So this is the first paycheck budget, this is the second one, this is the third one. So what you're going to do is you're going to click in this cell right here in the actual column. And if you look up here in the formulas section, it says 3 paycheck expense tracker copy. That's not what it is. You want to make sure the expense tracker name matches with your March expense tracker sheet. Our expense tracker for March is called March expense. So I'm going to change this to March expense. And this is super duper important if you want your variable spending categories to auto-populate based off of what you put in the expense tracker. You're going to put March expense. Hopefully this will help you out or isn't too confusing, which is why I'm walking you through this. So you're going to hit enter. But that formula needs to copy down to the rest of the column. So as you guys can see here, it still says 3 paycheck expense tracker copy. When I click back up here, that is what I'd like to see. So we're going to drag this cell like we did before with dragging down the formulas. So you're going to look for this little box right here at the corner, hover over it, look for this plus sign, click it, and you're going to drag all the way down here. And then it should be done. I like to go back and check to make sure it has everything that I need. So now I'm going to do the same thing with each one here. You don't have to do anything else with this, like all of these other symbols on here. You just need to delete this right here and put in March expense. And then same thing here again, March expense, or whatever name you put on your tab. Right down here, it needs to match. Let's go ahead and drag and drop. If you've never done this before, I know it can seem kind of overwhelming to see all of these different like symbols and stuff on here, but I promise you it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it, and you'll only need to do this once here. So let's do it again for the last paycheck budget. So in the actual column, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this to delete. And I'm going to put March expense. And then I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how it works to make sure that it works. So March expense, and then hit enter. I'm going to go ahead and drag it down again to make sure the formulas go all the way down. I think I did this with this too. Okay, let's take a look at the expense tracker and make sure everything went through. I'm just going to hit food. Households, gonna put $50 here, maybe let's do $50 here as well. I'm gonna do kids and then fun here. Let's just put 30 and then 30 here. And then in the third paycheck, I'm gonna go back to food and household. I'm just gonna put Just put $50 on both. And then going back to my March budget, let's put food on here and household. And then I did kids here and then fun and events. And then back to food and household here. So those expenses automatically pops up in here from the expense sheet. So again, make sure you are in the correct tracking period. So this is paycheck number 1, paycheck number 2 over here, and then paycheck number 3. And each of these will automatically populate here in these sections. Hopefully that little demonstration and tutorial was helpful and not confusing. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me. But I want to take a look at the monthly spending recap and how you can customize your pie chart. So let's put a couple of budget categories on here. Household, let's put transportation. I'm just going to put the amounts in the actual column because the pie chart will automatically pop up based on your actual numbers here in the budget categories. So let's say for food for the month, we spent $600. Household 100, gas most likely 200. Let's go ahead and put savings in here so it doesn't look too sad. Let's do $1,000 for savings. So if you want to customize this, you're going to double click on there and this chart editor will pop up. If you want to change your title over here, you totally can. I just like to put whatever month it is and then spending recap. And if you want to change the font, you totally can here. My favorite is the Y just because it looks super bold, but you can totally change it to whatever font that you like. The question that I get from a lot of people is how they can change the colors. So if you go over to Pie Slice, you can change the colors to whatever color that you want. So let's say for food, we want to change it to orange. Let me go ahead and just color code this. So if you like to color code your budget categories like I do, I like to also correspond the colors with my pie chart. So for food, usually it's this color. Household is this color for me. Transportation is gray. And then savings is a bright yellow. If I want to change those colors, double click here again. So back here with the pie slice, under savings, I'm going to change that to yellow. And then for food, household, it's going to be this like a mustard kind of yellowish color. And then transportation, I'm going to put gray. And then let me go ahead and throw in another color in there so it doesn't look all just crazy bright. Let's put rent on there, $13.95. And then this one, I think I have set kind of in the pinkish color. So let me double click this again, go to Pie Slice, and then under rent, I'm going to put this color right here. I probably should have put this amount here so it pops up. There you go. So that is how you can customize your pie chart. If you want to change your fonts, you want to change your colors so that it corresponds to your color coding method or system that you have, or if you have one. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Now, if you want to customize anything else within the spreadsheet, let's say you don't like my fonts that I use, you don't like the sizing, you can totally change it up. So let's say if you want to change up the fonts, go ahead and click on this corner right here on the left side of the A, and it's going to select the entire sheet. You can go ahead and select whatever font you want. Let's say you want this one right here. You can go ahead and change that. You can totally change the sizes. You can also change up the colors. Let's say you don't like this border over here. You don't like the blue. Maybe you just want it to be white. And then you want to change the letter back to black over here so you can actually see it. You can totally change it and customize it to whatever favorite color maybe you have. It doesn't have to stay this way if you don't want it to be. I tried to make it look nice and clean, cleaner than what my original spreadsheet budget was that I used, that I came up with during the year. I like this color theme so much better. But again, if you don't like it, feel free to change it. I'm going to go ahead and put this back how it was. Let me change that back to this font that I chose. Anyway, so that is it for this instructions and tips video. I know it's a pretty lengthy one. Again, there is timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to whichever section you need to watch. Thank you guys so much again for investing in one of my spreadsheet budget templates. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Good luck on your financial journey, and I hope you crush all of your financial goals. Have a good one. Bye.